You may have noticed that Traxxas brought out a new Bandit update recently that had a new livery on it. There were 2 different paint jobs on it and an updated transmission. I had a look at that, then I had a look at the price, and then I thought to myself, oh, a Bandit, hey? I wonder how much the cheap one is. So I went and got it. The cheapest vehicle in Traxxas lineup, it's the Bandit. It's a rear motor, rear wheel drive buggy. It's quite a heavy little thing. For its size, it's quite heavy. And it's also kind of flimsy compared to what maybe we've been spoiled with in recent years. The very first thing that jumped out at me was the polycarbonate wing on the back. This thing is going to get destroyed. On the bright side, they're cheap to make, but an ABS plastic thing maybe would have lasted longer. But anyway, it sits on these little wire things and it's got a rubber bushing in it, and that's just how it sits. It bolts in from underneath. It's not bad. It's just not going to last terribly long. Now, the other thing to let you know about is that this thing uses self-tapping screws throughout. And although it's still hobby grade, it's kind of barely hobby grade. That's all well and good. The question is, how does it perform? Well, if you are able to look closely, take a look at this wheel, for example, you'll see that I've actually had this thing out. I've run several battery packs through it on my little course here. I actually had a breakage on my second battery pack. The upper control arm here is being held in by a bigger bolt and a washer, whereas the other side still has its self-tapper on it. I wasn't abusive. My little track has one jump and that arm got torn out, literally on the second battery pack. It's your standard waterproof Traxxas 2056 servo, and it's the Titan 12-turn 3-pole, 12-turn 3-pole 550 motor in the back. There's a slipper clutch in there. We've got plastic drive shafts and the standard big bore plastic shocks, and that's pretty much the extent of it. Is it fit for purpose? Yes, it is. Is it fun? Yeah, it is. I'm actually really looking forward to showing you this thing, and it comes in 2 colors too. You get the blue and you get the red. I chose the red. I thought that was pretty cool. You get your radio. It's a standard 2-channel TQ thing. You got your gears, you got your tools. There's a manual and some stickers and whatnot. And helpfully they give you a bigger nickel metal hydride pack. It's a 3 amp, 8.4 volt. There's the extra cell on the end. It doesn't give you any longer runtime, but it does give you more speed. A fully charged LiPo, 2S LiPo, is 8.4 volts, and when it's discharged it's down to about 6.9, depending on your tolerances, down to 6.6 possibly. This thing, being nickel metal hydride, won't give you the same punch, but you won't need it because you've got a 12-turn 550 motor. It's just not going to draw the same current that a bigger system will. Brushless would be nice, but again, we're talking about Traxxas's cheapest entry. And for what it is, it's not bad. You get your nickel metal hydride charger as well. I've never actually used this battery. When I drove mine, I used a 2S LiPo, but today we're using it. I've charged it for the first time. Now, I have 4 or 5 of these little chargers. They can be a bit finicky. Sometimes the light won't come on and start charging like it should, even with ample power coming into it. So sometimes you just got to unplug it at either end and plug it in again to get it going. But it does the job, and it's not slow. It's something like a 2 amp charger, so it'll do this thing in an hour and a half from flat, and it doesn't arrive flat either, so that's not bad. And look, 3 amps will give you a moderate runtime. And now let me show you inside this thing. The top comes off with 2 body pins. There's one at the back and one at the front here. And off it comes. It's just a little polycarbonate shell, typical for a buggy. You've got a plate on top. That's your battery retention clip thing. There's a plate covering the servo. There's the back of it. It's a Traxxas 2056, I'm pretty sure. Yep. And it has a servo saver on it. So that's your steering. There aren't bearings on this thing. It spins just fine though, even being shims, honestly. Got your Traxxas waterproof battery box and your XL5 ESC, which we've seen before on some of their crawlers as well. Nothing wrong with it, and it's waterproof. For what it is, yeah, it's fine. You've got a dust and dirt cover for your rear setup. A lot of systems don't have that, so that's a plus. It's held in with 2 self-tapping screws. Everything's self-tapping in this thing. You can tell they're self-tapping because you see the bottom of the screw at the bottom of the shaft there. But again, given this is a brush system, none of this is a huge deal. Otherwise, it's pretty good. So here's how we get the battery in. We're gonna pop this out. That lifts up. Battery goes in, and underneath, as you'll see, all the way. Oh, hang on. There we go. There we are, and they've even got room for the wire in the front, which is cool. There we go. Okay, it's connected. Power's on. There we go. There we are. Line up the little antenna. Most of you are going to lose that. I've already lost mine. This is from another model. It's on my course here somewhere, but I don't know where. There we go. Back body pins on. There we go. Whew. All right, let's do it. All right, so I thought we'd do a few laps. The nice thing about a buggy is that it jumps really nicely. The balance is such they're meant to sit through the air. Now this thing isn't super fast until you pin it, and then it actually does have some speed. Top speed is noticeably lower. Goodness me. Battery's had it. Yeah. No, it hasn't had it, but it's noticeably low. There we go, stick. This is the next day and we're having another go at this because when I drove this yesterday we got 3 minutes. And I don't trust the charger, which is a 4 amp charger incidentally, so I've charged it on my own charger, and you can see the photo here. There we go. So today we're just going to basically do laps until it runs out, and we'll see how long we get. Let's do it. Time's on. This could benefit from a greater steering throw, but buggies also like to be skidded. And you come off the throttle and the back swings around like that. So it's also my driving, I'm sure. Yeah. So you kind of want to stay on the throttle to go straight and then come off it to steer. It jumps alright, but it's so heavy. I've got to get used to a buggy. Oof, first crash. Let's have a look at it. Now I said the wing's probably not going to last terribly long. I'll just pause timing. It'll take a few like that, but one thing is, unlike my four-wheel drives, when you come off a jump, you can't accelerate to bring the nose up, so you really got to get the speed right. We're a minute in on our 3 amp nickel metal hydride. Well, nothing broke at least, that was nice. My issue is keeping it straight. I think we'll get there with practice. Just come out of the sun. There we go. Lower tone motors have greater power, but they have greater current draw as well. Ooh, that was a rough landing. And it lands a bit like a toy too. Its weight doesn't help there. So this thing being a 12 turn 550, the 550 is good. That's more like a 16 turn 540, I think, something like that. They won't last as long as the 21 turn or the 17 turn 550s that you'll find in the crawlers. So the same battery here is just not going to last anywhere near as long. Oh yuck, another lousy landing, and the steering looks loose. So I think we broke something. Let's have a look. Yeah, we have. Might have just popped off the front shock though. Let's see. Okay, so we're missing the spring. It goes on the inside there. We still have the ball end, which is good. We're just missing the screw. Okay, I didn't find the screw, so what we're going to do is pull out the other one and we'll have a look at it. and we'll try and find the same one that was on the inside. Okay, so that's what we have. The heads are a bit different. Oh, hang on, here we go. Here we go. A little bit short. I always keep screws, and we'll use a little bit long, and we'll use them as we need them. What about this guy? I think the length is good. It was on the inside, so we'll stick that in like that. And because it's the same thread, it should just do up. And it's the same length, so it should go all the way. Should. Being not a button head, a socket head. Being a socket head, I've got to just be careful. We're not just screwing plastic. We might need to go into the outside. I don't think it's fitting around the plastic. I think what we did need was the button head. So we'll put him through here. This will actually lower the front a little, which is, well, it softens the suspension, which is not good for that nasty jump actually. But the Bandit also comes with some spare collars for the suspension, so we might just make the preload a little bit stiffer and pick it back up to make up for this. So the end result should be similar. Is that in? Yeah. Don't want to overdo it or it'll ruin it. And I've got, if you ever need replacements of these arms, you get RPM instead of Traxxas. The plastic's a bit nicer. Ask me how I know. Get this screw lined up with the ball end. There we go. There we go, that's in. Now because it's a bit lower, we want stiffer. So what we're going to use are these bigger ones. You get different thicknesses. And you can pile them together as well, but we're just going to pull out the skinny ones and stick these big fat ones on. It seems like a big change, and it kind of is, but it goes above that plastic spacer. The reason I'm doing that is because we've lost some height here, and I also think on this big jump it needs a little bit more, just to help keep the front off the ground, because you can see it's copying some nasty chunks just in there. Alright, that's done. No other issues, we'll get it back down to the track and keep timing. We're approaching 9 minutes, and in case I don't have the film from before, I was just saying how the spacers we put on the front shocks have been great. It's stiffened it up, and so it takes this short jump much better now. So if you're doing short little jumps like this, you want to stiffen the front suspension just with a bigger one of those spacers. It preloads the springs and raises your body height a bit. The springs are just as stiff as they were, but they're already slightly compressed. You've just got a bit more room to fall, which is what it needs. Oh, see, I think we would have had a catastrophe with no spacers like we had, or the thin ones. The other thing I was saying was, being rear-wheel drive, it picks the front up, which is light, and these little small wheels, when you're accelerating, you lose steering. It understeers. So that's why when you come off the throttle, sorry, you can steer better, because the weight shifts forward again onto the front wheels. When you're accelerating, it picks the front up. This suspension's perfect now for this little jump. Now it's all the driver. This would be fun to drive with another one together. Now I'm getting the hang of this thing. We'll go the other way for a bit. There we go. What are we up to? 10:50. And no, we're still good. We'll keep going till we run out of beans. My brain really is configured for four-wheel drive. Oof. We'll go back to this way. It's a more predictable jump. Oof. was a really rough landing. We'll just make sure everything's good. I thought I saw the tyre tear out. I did. So the glue's come loose on this tyre. Remember, this is my 3rd battery ever. So, pardon me, soapy water and then super glue will ensure that these stay on, which is going to be necessary. Our little screw fix is still good. This one's backed out a little bit. We'll keep an eye on that. And the rears are still good. All right, we continue. We're at 12 minutes with a little pause. So the front tire is going to be peeling off the rim. It's not actually under a lot of stress on this car, but we'll need to clean it up. And super glue is perfect for that. Once your rubber and plastic are clean, super glue will do the job. We use bead locks in the crawling world. Whoop. Limited slip diff would help here too. You could put stiffer oil or even a bit of blue tack in the rear diff. I haven't played with this before, this one, but a couple of ways to do it. Or just some really high viscosity silicone diff oil. You heard me going jump, jump, jump on the throttle then, that's not ideal. You want to be in smoothly, then out smoothly. So I ease off to get more steering, then ease back on when I'm straight. It's just a case of practice. As far as longevity goes, I don't see this car lasting terribly long on this track, honestly. It's not abusive driving, and I'm trying to be smooth, but the dust on this corner and bad landings from this little jump here are going to take their toll. I'd give it a season. If I play with this all summer, there'll be not much left of it. Oof. 4-wheel drive, you could have accelerated and brought the nose down. 2-wheel drive, you kind of committed once you're in the air. Stiffer suspension in the front end, that's good. Slow down the damping rate. There'd be less bounce. You can see it's the rear's kind of wobbling around as it goes. Just want to look closely to make sure the tyres are still in. Because they're not driven wheels, you can see even though they're not glued now, they're holding on just fine. Drive shafts are fine. Motor's hot, but not too hot to touch. This wing's copping a bit of a beating, but it's actually looking better than I thought it would at this point. We've had a few crashes. All right, time's back on. Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, we're losing speed now. It's oh. Couldn't see it. That was nasty. We're nearly done here. I think the battery's nearly run out, but we're going to keep going. Everything's intact, so we continue. The combination of weight and self-tapping screws work against this thing for longevity, I think. Oh dear. Working in its favor though is nice plastics. There are slightly better plastics available. RPM does excellent arms, but the Traxxas stuff isn't too bad, honestly. They're a good mix of stiff and flexible. They use enough fiber to make the arms pretty tough. And it's the control arms and the A-arms that will take a hit. The front wheels are getting really chunked, but that's just the chrome finish. They should keep working just fine. The stiffer front suspension, well, the preloaded front helps it take landings. I think a slightly stiffer shock oil, it'll stop bouncing around as much. And after that, use it for what it is, I think. It's not a racing buggy, it's a fun buggy. And on a course like this, just a simple course, it could do without this short jump, but that's kind of fun, so I'm gonna keep using it. I think that's fun. And now we're out. And so time 16:50, quick damage report. We've got scratches across. I'll show you a photo or two. Since we put the bigger collars on, this thing takes bigger landings better. And the body itself is looking fine. When I took this thing off too, the motor was quite hot. But otherwise everything's quite intact. There is, you know, there's some evidence of the plastics wearing. These front wheels really took a beating, but overall, yeah, it's standing up to it. I don't think it's going to be a long-lasting machine, not like some other Traxxas offerings, but again, it's their cheapest one in the range, so what you going to do? So there you have it. We went from full till flat. That was with the 3 amp battery. It started at 10.35 volts and the battery was kind of hot when I took it off my charger. I think it got higher than the 4 amp Traxxas charger did. But anyway, we got 17 minutes out of it. And like I was saying before, I think heavier fluid in the rear will stop the back from just bouncing around as much because it'll slow the damping rate down. And after that, I think just run it till you break it. It's not a racing buggy, it is heavy, it doesn't land terribly well unless you line it up nicely. But for what it is, it delivers on fun. The rear spoiler has suffered through 4 or 5 crashes now, and I mean, it looks fine. Given it's Traxxas' most cheap 110 scale offering, as far as the basher goes, yeah, it's pretty good. You don't get bearings like you do on the more expensive ones, but it's a pretty complete package. Thanks for joining me for this little look at the Traxxas Bandit brushed edition. It's the XL5. Throw me a like if you got something out of it, and I'll catch you next time on RC-TNT. Thanks for watching.